Now, I don't really need to make myself any taller, but that's not the point of stilts. True enough, you can use them to see over crowds if you watch a pageant, but the main point of them is simply to learn to walk on them and have a lot of fun. Well, they're very easily made. These, of course, were made by a professional, and you can see that the footrest has been cut out of one piece of wood using a saw and bolted to the upright. But you don't need to do that. You can make a perfectly acceptable pair of stilts by making the footrest in a much simpler way. In fact, it's absurdly simple if you take a bit of trouble with the accuracy. There we are, that's the footrest that works. They're about 6 pieces of wood just bolted together onto the upright. And that's very easy to do. Here's how you do it. In fact, you start with the sort of wood that carpenters use when they're building a house. Here we are. It's nice and strong, usually made of pine. Get 4 pieces that are about your own height. A little bit longer perhaps, but to my own height certainly does the job. 2 of them you'll keep as uprights, the other 2 you're going to cut up to make the footrests. Well, how many of those pieces will you need? It depends on the sort of bolt you've got. And certainly make sure that the bolt is a little bit longer than your foot is wide, because that has got to go all the way through the footrest. You don't want to be falling off the side. With that in mind, you simply take one of these uprights and measure pieces about 20 centimetres long. That's pretty substantial for footrest. And all you have to do then is to cut off the first piece of that length. Here goes. Right, now that's a very important piece. You see, that's going to be the template or the guide that allows us to cut all the others to the right length. So mark it guide, then you'll know where you are. It always helps to label the top part of it with an arrow and make little marks all over it so you can't mix it up with any other piece. That then becomes a ruler, and you can place it along the piece of wood like this and very accurately cut off a whole lot more of exactly that length. Well, I've already done that. I've got a stack of them growing over here. Now, of course, the guide and the other pieces have to be bolted onto the upright. So you now need to turn it round, perhaps, and make a little cross about there at the top and another one down there. That's where we're going to drill the holes for the bolt. Make sure that the bit or the drill you're using is a little bit wider than the bolt and shove the thing in a vise. And, of course, if you've got someone with a power drill who can help you, so much the better. But if you haven't, a brace and bit or a drill will do the job as long as you work accurately. Well, you drill through that hole and you drill through the one at the other end. And that becomes your guide. In fact, I've already done it. Here's my guide here. You can see that using that, I've clamped it onto all the other pieces of wood that I've cut, one at a time, making sure that the top always is aligned. Because if I've made a mistake in the length, and I have there, it doesn't really matter as long as the tops are always aligned. Make a mark of the pen like that, and a mark of the pen like that. That means that the bolt holes will all go through and be aligned. Well, in the end, you'll end up with a stack of them. And here they are over here. This is my footrest. I can put the bolt through the guide, ram it down through there, and as long as everything is properly aligned, that is ready to bolt onto the upright. And here's the test of accuracy. Those ought to be aligned as well. Well, what do you do with the upright? I guess the first thing is to decide how far off the ground you want to be. But I think probably about 40 centimetres for a beginner is right. Once again, use the guide to mark that hole and that hole should align like that. And the second bolt should be able to go through all of these down here. That's going to take me a bit of time. So while I'm working, watch this. There we are, the finished stilt, all aligned and done up. When you do this, always put the bolts through in that direction. It means that the jagged overlap of bolt is poking on the outside of the stilt. If you then fall off, you don't cut your ankle up on that. But that should do the job. It should bear even my colossal weight. Well, let's give it a go. There's that stilt, there's its partner. You'll have to practice this, of course, but you should find, after a bit of practice, that's really quite easy. Good stilting.